Greetings, Beaverton students at large. I'm here today to talk to you about the 5 things that we may have learned in these last 5 videos. So, it's synopsis time. We're going to be kind of wrapping things up here before we drift off out into our COVID release party and go and see what the world looks like on the outside. So as things lighten up, we are going to take a moment here, before that happens, to kind of wrap things up with the last bunch of videos. And I know that you must be sad that this is happening. Yes, But here we are, all the same. So, we will, instead of going back and reviewing all the other things we did, like I do usually, we're just going to move ahead, and I'll just start rolling with this. To review, our first video was about setting up your practice space. You wanted to be able to find a place that you could go to that would be acoustically clean, that was satisfying to play in, and at the same time was not so satisfying that you couldn't hear things that you might be doing that would need to be fixed. And you wanted that space to be acoustically neat so that you could reproduce that feedback from that space to be able to provide you with an opportunity to be able to create a slope to improve on. In our second video, we talked about 5 parts of practicing. And in the 5 parts of practicing, we had our warm-up, scales and exercises. Then we had playing a piece of music you enjoy. Now this is an important part that I want to mention because when I was a boy and I went off to college, one of the things my father always told me was, play something off of the radio. Play something that people know. Buy a book, if there are older people in your building, buy a book of old songs and just play those. Because every now and then, people are going to be happier listening to you play than listening to you practice. And if you play a little song once in a while that they like or that they know, they won't mind listening to you practice so much. And this is actually a very good time to do a little story. So, when I was in college, I had a roommate, and my roommate and I, we both played trombone. He would practice every day, just like I did. And he would always be playing orchestral excerpts. And these are pieces of music, if you're not a classical musician or a person who likes classical music, these are melodies you don't know, you don't hear them, and the way they're played is just kind of bombastic and they're annoying. And I used to practice the same excerpts. However, now and then I would pull out my book of 1940s popular songs and I would play one of the songs, and I found out the neighbor lady who lived upstairs from me liked the song called Laura. And when I would play that song, I could hear her banging around a little bit upstairs, and then she would stop making noise. And I would play this song, and I would play it, once at the beginning of my, and then I would of my third part of my rehearsal time, and then I would play my excerpts, and then I would finish my rehearsal time with that piece, and then I'd play some basic warm downs, and it'd be done. And the funny thing is, one day she came up to me and said, "Oh, when you play, I just love hearing you play. It's so enjoyable for me. But your roommate," and I thought, oh man, he was a very fine trombone player, but he never played anything that she enjoyed listening to. So for her, it was more pleasurable for her to listen to me practice, because I took 6 minutes in a 30-minute practice or a 40-minute practice session. 6 minutes of that time I spent playing a song she recognized and liked. So that made me a better trombone player than my roommate. And, well, that's how that goes. So that's our third part of practice. Our fourth part of practice is being comfortable recording in our practice space, knowing how to set up a microphone and be able to, or the video camera or your phone or whatever you're going to use, and being comfortable performing the piece of music the way it would go in a concert. When we take that moment to practice the way we perform, so that we can hear the piece from beginning to end without any mistakes and know that we are practicing proper etiquette for a performance. The fifth part of our practice, of course, is just warming down, making sure that you're loosening up all the muscles of your face so that you can get good blood flow back into those places and be able to carry any tannins or tannic acid, lactic acid that is built up in the muscles from using them. You can get that to flow away easily and shift your mind out of practice mode. Then we went to our third video, which was where we talked about playing loud. I talk about mutes and some other things, but the purpose of that video was really to be able to understand that playing loud, a lot of support, a lot of air, is something that we need to do in almost every practice session. And a mute is always a good idea because you don't bother the family or the neighbors or whomever may be around. But it's important to play long tones with good volume so that you can build strength and be able to inhale and exhale quickly. So that was our third video. Our fourth video was the definition of a term, and that term was critical listening. And in our critical listening, we wanted to take objective listening as that point where we want to get to that performer who plays our instrument brilliantly, and know that we can follow and try to see what our instrument can do and try to maximize what our abilities are on our instruments. That's objective listening. And then there's the subjective listening, where we listen to ourselves along that slope and try to think about how we're doing today and whether or not we're doing better than we did yesterday or worse, and then comparing that to ourselves along that slope. One of the important things on this slope is you don't want to try to jump too high up, because the reason why we have good days and bad days and we go up and down this slope very slowly is because we're etching out the slope. The slope is a very slippery slope, as they say. And if you don't etch out enough footholds or grab holds, if you try to jump up here, you'll just slide right back down here. And then there was our fifth topic. Our fifth topic, of course, was reinforcing our fundamentals. And I didn't necessarily mean reinforcing our fundamentals and then describing all those fundamentals. What I wanted us to do was grasp the concepts of the dialect of the phrases and words that we use that describe those fundamentals so that we can practice them properly, because improper practice only makes for improper playing. So we want to be able to know what those fundamentals, what those words mean, so that we can then transfer that to being able to develop our fundamentals properly in the first parts of our practice session. So knowing how to sit up straight, not like for dinner, but to sit up straight with a straight back instead of a curved back, so that we can bring in the air. Not bringing in the air, breathing deep like for gym or swimming, but breathing deep and breathing in from the bottom with the air like for playing your instrument and supporting it properly to get that length of sound that you want to develop and focus on. And listening to your sound and feeling your body and knowing how to describe that using common words that may not be used specifically with these definitions, to ask questions, to be able to reinforce those opinions within us. All of the different dialects that we will learn in our lives. And then I want to wrap these 5 episodes up, or these 5 different videos, for our COVID educations, and be able to explain that each video has something in it that is designed to help you over the summer be able to improve without needing as much assistance. For those players who want the assistance, please feel free to call or get a private teacher, or do something like you could do video lessons like this, or Zoom, or perhaps maybe when this thing is a little less pandemonious, we'll be able to actually get together as people and discuss those things one-on-one. And here we are with our last video. Yeah. I was hoping you would be a little more. That's better. Okay. So, episode 4 is where we have a story time, and I talk about the symphony of my life, the music, the soundtrack of my life. And in that soundtrack, I purposefully designed it with 5 different elements. The reason why I incorporated 5 elements was because I wanted to then have a little test in episode 5. But no, it's not that kind of test. It's just kind of a refresh of your memory. See, it's not like it's written or anything. But instead of doing it in episode 5, I thought I would wait until we wrapped it all up here in episode 6. So what happened in episode 4 with the story time is I created 5 different elements in this story time. Now the reason why I did it this way was because I wanted to describe it as the soundtrack of my life, as a piece of music. And music doesn't always have to be played on a musical instrument. Our lives are the musical instrument. And so my voice speaking to you was the melody. It's the thing that is the most prominent, the thing you listen to and follow the most. Then came the harmony. The harmony was the sound of the crowd walking on the boardwalk, the people walking about. And the rhythm was the sound of the sea. And as I'm talking to you and explaining these elements, I know that you're recalling that video and you can remember hearing those things. But beyond those 3 elements, there was the counterpoint. The counterpoint was as I walk along, I explain the different kinds of music that I'm listening to. The hip-hop or rap music, and then the rock and roll, and then there was the sitar music, and then finally I talk about the classical music. And then on top of that, there's a drum circle playing off in the distance. So all of these different elements exist acoustically in my world, just like a piece of music. And this is important. Your life is a piece of music. The soundtrack of it exists everywhere, all around us, all of the time. We have our thoughts. That's the melody of our symphony, of my symphony. What I'm saying, what I'm thinking, how I feel. The harmony is my experiences, the unseen fabric of relationship that I have with my family, my wife, and you. And then there's the counterpoint, the thoughts and the people that I know. Then there's the bass line. The bass line is the ever-developing work that I do with my life and my music. Then there's the rhythm. And the rhythm comes from the rain dropping on the roof, or the leaves blowing across the street, or the sound of my tires rolling on the asphalt as I drive along the freeway, or in the car that I'm riding in. The sounds of the engine, the drone, the white noise. There's a wonderful piece of music called Ravel's Bolero. And I'll link it down in the description below this video, and you can go there and listen to it. For the most part, music will have 3 to 5 elements in it. And when you listen to these symphonies, the reason why isn't because it was from outer space, it's because it comes from within the basic fiber of being a human being, of what our minds can do. And as you go out into the world, and you learn all of these different dialects, and you learn all of these different languages and their dialects from different disciplines that you experience in your life, know that you're going to be able to share these as the harmony of your own symphony. I'm very glad to have had you as one of the voices, as one of the counterpoints in my symphony. So to you that I may see in the fall, have a great summer, and I hope to see you then. To those of you who are graduating, thanks for being a part of the music of my life. And I'll see you next time. Maybe.